Hello, today we're in Cambridgeshire, a very flat county, which is great if you want to install a railway. The only challenge you've got are the roads. It makes little sense to build hundreds of railway bridges and tunnels over or under the road network when the topography doesn't suit such structures, and that's where level crossings come in. The clue is in the name, level crossing, a crossing that's installed at the same level. They're cheap to build and easy to construct, and when you need to build lots of something, cheaper and easier is often the preferred choice, but not always the best choice. In the mid-1800s, the Midland Railway Company were putting the finishing touches to their newly constructed railway, which included a level crossing at Helpston, where they'd also built a railway station. Very nice it was, but soon the Great Northern Railway Company came along looking to install their own four-line railway running alongside and through Helpston Station and Crossing. After a deal was struck between the two companies, work would begin and the Great Northern Railway was constructed. After all was said and done, we were left with two railways running alongside one another, meaning the level crossing had to be extended. Fair enough, but this is where it all starts to get a bit stupid, because the two railway companies operated completely independently from one another, which meant at Helpston Level Crossing there were two signal boxes and two crossings, one for each railway company. Each level crossing had its own set of gates and they would operate according to their own schedules. This resulted in two level crossings opening and closing their gates at completely random times, with no effort made to work together and time the crossing closures in a sensible manner. But to be fair, in the mid to late 1800s, this didn't really matter. There was far less road traffic, and if there was traffic, it would have been horse-drawn. Fast forward 100 years, and those horses had all been replaced with motor vehicles, and this is perhaps where the Helpston level crossing started getting a lot more dangerous. At this point, the level crossing was still operating as two separate crossings with two sets of gates, but the timing of the crossings had now been synchronized, so all of the gates would open and close as one crossing. But this created a new danger, because what happens if you're halfway through and the gates close? You're going to get stuck in the middle. Not a problem per se, because there's intentionally space left for vehicles, but only two. The danger is for car number 3, who wasn't paying attention and just following the car in front. They then end up in quite a precarious position. But no one cared, at least not at that time. It wouldn't be until the 1970s that the crossing saw a few changes. Actually, the first major change came a little bit earlier in 1966 with the closure of Helpston Railway Station. The second major change came with the merger of railway companies, meaning Helpston Crossing was no longer split between two different organisations. So then, in the 1970s, the crossing was modified and turned into one large single level crossing with just the one set of gates. This prevented anyone from ending up stuck in the middle by mistake and allowed for a far more efficient operation. In doing so, they created the longest railway level crossing in the UK. Measured between each of the gates, it's about 70 metres across, and it takes the road over 6 railway lines. Today, that railway is the East Coast Main Line, and Helpston Crossing, along with several others, is amongst the busiest crossings in the country. Just by the crossing is a Great Northern Railway built signal box. You'll recall that there were two. The other, that would have been built by the Midland Railway Company, has long since been demolished, but the remaining signal box is still in use today, but it doesn't do much signalling. It's instead used to monitor Helpston Level Crossing and the others in the area. Such as Woodcroft Level Crossing, found a short distance away. This is interesting because, whilst it's not as large as Helpston Crossing, it's a manually operated crossing that takes you over 6 railway lines, and like Helpston, it used to be 2 separate crossings before it was merged into one larger crossing. It's staffed 24/7, and perhaps uniquely, they usually keep the gates closed to motorists, only opening them when required. I suppose with several trains an hour versus the odd car every now and again, that makes the most sense. But back to Helpston, and if it's such a long level crossing, what happens if you're walking across it and the alarm sounds and the gates lower? Are you going to get stuck halfway through? Well, unless you're massively dicking around, that's unlikely. The gates or barriers lower in a staggered way to allow for a small window of opportunity for pedestrians or motorists to get themselves clear of the crossing. If for whatever reason you don't make it across in time, well, I suppose you're stuck. The best option there would be to wait it out in the middle and hope that Network Rail don't get too annoyed about it. Thanks for watching.